Could you introduce the item, please?
Okay. Again. So Toastmasters with Goto, the title is Give It Time. Like,
Thank you. That's all right. I hate my boss. He always finds every little tiny mistake I make and bring it to my face, and you should do that. He said to me that. He sometimes flips out for no good reason and yell at me. I hate him. Are you picturing any specific boss in your mind? It's really hard to have a mean boss. But back then, how did you cope with that anger? Did you used to spit coffee cup before you serve the coffee to them? Or maybe did you daydream that you were kicking their bottoms while you pretended to listen to them very seriously? Now, let me introduce Mr. Frank Slade. From today, he is your boss. Very angry guy with a gun in his hand. Very perfect book. Very perfect boss, isn't it? Do you think you can get along with him? No, no way. That should be the exact same feeling what the Charlie thought when he met with Frank for the first time. Now, who are the hell Frank and Charlie? They are actually the main characters in the movie. It's called Scent of Woman, which is one of my favorite movies. Frank used to be a veteran soldier in the US Army. He is blind, so he cannot see. He has a bad mouth. He often hurts others' feelings. He nags a lot. He drinks every day. He flips out for no good reason. And no wonder, almost everybody hates him. Basically, his family does too. That's why he lives with his niece and her family. His niece is the only person who takes care of Frank. Charlie, on the other hand, is a high school student. He grew up in a very poor family at the countryside. But he's very diligent and intelligent. So he goes to this prestigious school on a scholarship. He is very calm, humble, and considerate. But he is also consistent in his belief. He is a guy with a strong principle, which is very unlikely as a high school kid. So Charlie one day took a job. The job is to take care of Frank, so that Frank's niece family can go on a family trip. In the movie, Frank often flips out for no good reason and yells at Charlie. Especially when Charlie tries to help Frank walk by grabbing his arm because Frank is blind, he can't see. It goes like this. For example, at his house, when Charlie tries to grab his hand, "Hey! Touch me again. I kill you. You little son of a bitch. I touch your arm." At the airport, "Now, which way is the door?" "Oh, let me." "Hey! Are you blind? Are you blind?" "Of course not." "Then why do you keep grabbing at the goddamn arse? I take you on." Frank is such a prick. If I were Charlie, I couldn't stand him even for 1 hour. But Charlie spent with Frank for 3 holidays. But surprisingly, as the story goes, this mental distance between those two are narrowing down. And it's really hard for them to get close to each other, but they did. How this happen? He's a freak. He's a good guy. How they can narrow down the gap? Actually, the reason I think they get so close at the end is that Charlie is patient enough to give it time to let Frank grow on him. Actually, he has got a gun, so he has no choice. But seriously, if Charlie didn't want to spend time with Frank, he could leave at any time, but he didn't. That's why he is so patient to give it time for Frank. Same things may happen to your life too. Let me share my story of Mr. Grumpy or Mr. G. I met Mr. G for the first time at the job interview. He was one of those interviewees. They are three. I was nervous. Of course I was. Because I had to prove myself to them that I am the one who they want to hire. There's another thing that bothered me a lot, which is there was an English interview as well. So I was nervous. And there Mr. G was. He looked grumpy. He was certainly not good in the mood. And he was giving me this vicious look on me. He was like a lion, hiding behind the bush, sharpening his claw and waiting for a right chance to jump on you. Then, while we were talking with the other interviewees in Japanese, Mr. G suddenly cut in and asked me a question in English. Okay, Mr. G, Mr. Goto, what do you want to achieve if you get this job? Oh, okay. One thing I'd like to achieve is to contribute your team, to utilize my English skill and blah blah blah. Struggling to come up with a killer comment to make a good impression on Mr. G, I kept talking and talking for a long time. So he gave me this cold face and suddenly cut in while I was still talking. So I'm telling you this, hey, you talk too long! Make it short! Now, what makes you think you can contribute to our team? Okay, his first attack was so sharp that I got freeze and I couldn't say a word for a few seconds. It was disaster. The interview went on another 30 minutes. It was hell. I barely remember what I said since the second question. Since the lion bit my neck. But just before closing the interview, Mr. G told me this unforgettable comment about me. Well, Mr. Goto, as I told you, you talk too much. But I like the way you deliver your thought. I can tell you pay much attention to compose your thought in a way to make your point clear. I like it. That's your strong point. I was astonished to hear that. I have been through a lot of job interviews by them, but no one ever gave me that kind of comment. As an interviewee, you don't need to do that. Your job is to narrow down the number of applicants. So, fortunately, I got that job. Several months later, at the lunchtime, I and Mr. G were talking about this interview. Mr. G, you said I talk too much. That really freaked me out. Thanks a lot. Wow, Mr. Goto. That's too bad. But you know what? I said that because I thought you can do much, much better. I don't need to say that kind of things if I don't really care about you. When someone gives you some harsh comments on your work or what you did, please don't just jump into the conclusion that they are just mean. There is always a chance that they may be saying that for your sake. It will be much, much easier for them to just ignore you and let you do what you do. Give it time to them. Then those seemingly mean people might turn out to be the ones who you cherish for the rest of the time. So, next time when you see them, give it time, then judge. Thank you.
Please write your comments beforehand.